Okay, so I'm going to ground us in where we are thematically, like what we've been discussing this week. Because if you could believe it, sacral chakra all the way already week 5. So I'm going to ground us in where we are. And then we'll dive into a short meditation and then open up to shares and then continue on as we usually do. So, on Wednesday, we started getting into sensuality, creativity, that part of our arc in this sadhana. And specifically, we talked about authentic yes and no, what that feels like, inner guidance, staying connected to ourselves in a relationship, and recognizing when we override our own signals for the connection that we're trying to maintain. And we're going to continue deepening into that work from a softer and more relational place today. So we're going to focus on emotional honesty. And these are all going to be touch points, and we'll give a little like a homework to continue to explore what this might look like in the day to day. So our focus is emotional honesty, vulnerability, staying open without abandoning ourselves, expressing our own needs and truth gently, allowing connection without disconnecting with ourselves. I'll say that again. So allowing connection without disconnecting from ourselves. Recognizing that authenticity creates deeper intimacy, not less. And I'll come back to this from a nervous system perspective. And sensuality and aliveness as openness to life and connection. So it's a lot in one moment, but we're going to continue to dive into all three of those themes or all of those themes. And I have a little dream catcher and my cat at the beginning of every session. That's what she's doing over there. So she's having a good time. Okay. So then the core movement tonight is not necessarily how do I protect myself? And we're going to talk about boundaries and how they can look in different ways. They can be born out of fear and they can be born out of a true authenticity. And we're going to move from how do I protect myself to how do I remain emotionally open while staying connected to myself. And so we'll dive deeper into that today. So, with that, let's take a moment to arrive here together. So let's find a seat. Allow your eyes to soften to a close, or just find a soft, steady gaze in the lap, the table in front of you. Let's take a moment to arrive together. So initially, just notice the sensation of the feet on the ground. Maybe if you're sitting cross-legged, the sides of the legs on the couch or chair beneath. And feel your legs, lower part of the body. And feel your seat, your hips, and the support of this foundation of the physical body. And then on your next inhale, take a nice deep inhale through the nose. And an exhale, gentle sigh out of the mouth. Just take 2 more just like that. Inhale. Exhale, a gentle sigh. 1 more to arrive, to soften. Inhale through the nose. And an exhale, sigh out of the mouth. Now let's draw awareness down to our lower belly, our sacral region, our pelvic bowl. They're right in the center. And notice Notice what comes in when you anchor your awareness in that space. Notice any movement, any sensation. Notice what this part of the body feels like in this moment, especially when we shine the light of our awareness here. Good. And we'll continue to cultivate just an energetic flow into this area by moving into our wave breath. So on your next inhale, breathe down into that lower belly region. Notice the belly start to expand. And towards the last third of the inhale, follow the breath upward along the spine. And then a soft breath out. So again, inhale, lower belly. Notice the belly start to expand. And then follow the breath towards the end of the inhale upward along the spine. And exhale a breath out. And continue just like that. Several more rounds. Inhale, belly expands. Towards the last third, we release, follow the breathward upward along the spine. And exhale a soft breath out. Cultivating a wave-like pattern with our breath. And with each round of breath, notice if the shoulders can soften. Notice if the seat can soften onto the form beneath. Notice if anywhere in the physical body can soften to release into this practice and into this moment. And a few more rounds, just noticing this breath in your body. And even if the mind starts to wander, and release the practice. Notice if there's any judgment. Notice if there's any discomfort. And can we bring softness into those places? An openness, a curiosity. And then after the next breath out, you can gently let that practice go for now. And one more time, draw your awareness back down to the lower belly. And just hold it there for a few more moments. Notice any shifts, any differences from when we checked in just a few moments ago. Any sensations, any movement, and maybe just even an inward smile. When you're ready, take one more deep breath in to close out this initial practice. Maybe another gentle sigh out. Good. When you're ready, you can tuck the chin to the chest, a little bow of the head. Flutter the eyes back open. You can blink a few times. You can find any little movements. Good. And we re-arrive again. So I'm going to put some just for our share today. Again, the shares are always optional. I know I say that every time in this group, and then we go on for like 50 minutes, and I love that. But I'm always going to put that in for our spaces and ourselves when we need that. But I'm going to also just guide us with a couple prompts. So given our journey so far, I can't believe it's week 5. Did you notice, and then our content specifically this week, just a few prompts on what we've been talking about. So, do we notice any moments where we stayed more honest with ourselves this week? Did we find what a genuine yes or a genuine no feels like in the body? Do we notice moments where we stayed open instead of shutting down, or even like a partial? Um, And what helps you feel emotionally safe enough to remain open, honest, and connected? And so, if any of those questions resonated or anything else that you'd like to share in this moment, I'm going to open up the space to arrive in a different way.
I noticed that I harden, like my everything tenses in my body, like physically, when I feel like this surge of criticism come on, that's related to my husband. We're selling our apartment right now, so it's a stressful time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of transition, and
Yeah.
the I feel like that's my default place where I go in to protect myself. So I harden against him and I kind of close off, and it does not feel good on my body or my mind, right? So I journaled a lot yesterday, and I wrote like, I deplete myself and my creativity and aliveness with negative thoughts.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of negativity, like negative side of things. And I guess that's coming from my need, like my ancient need to protect myself, right? And I don't think I really need it. It's just kind of like comes up, it bubbles up
Yeah.
in the moments of where I don't feel completely safe or secure or grounded. And I mean, there's so much to say about that, right? Because like I haven't healed my root chakra yet. I have to work on it.
All
I'll,
of us. It's an
all,
ongoing journey.
it's an so I wrote, there's so much, I can't read all this because it's going to take too long, but what I'm arriving at is that equanimity, right? I'm arriving at a need to soften, as you were saying,
Yes.
Ali, earlier, and
Yes.
to really open up more to positivity, like, and softness and kindness. I even wrote here that I need to create a kindness filter for myself
Yeah.
so that I can view the world through a kinder prism and just kind of like slow everything down and ground myself in the belief that to the hard edges is not, first I know that hardness does not work for me because it kind of like, it builds a wall of protection, but it
Yeah.
doesn't really truly protect me. It does
Yes.
not, because it makes me feel bad
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
and regretful, and it just makes me feel depleted and empty.
Yeah.
I know that when I speak to Graham, my husband, like in a kinder, softer way, I find it nourishing not only for him but also for myself.
Yeah.
So like this is my work, and my challenge is how to um not to interpret his behavior as a threat,
Yes.
to my safety or to my
Yes.
like ability to function, because we're very, very different people. We're like the polar opposites. So that makes it really hard. It triggers a lot in me, and like I cannot expect him to change in any radical kind of way, and he won't. But so it's really, I need to work on my ability to make space for equanimity and for the softness
Yeah.
and fluidity, just being more fluid like water um and kind.
Yeah. So many
Okay.
things. And I want to begin by the awareness that you just exhibited of this space and this opportunity within ourselves in which to move to a place that feels more aligned in our mind, in our body, in our spirit is so powerful. Is within the clinical world, there's five stages of change, and the second one is conscious awareness. Effectively, that's what I call it, and it is the hardest. How do we bring the thing? How do we bring awareness to the ways in which we want to move in the world in a way that's more aligned with who we are now? And conceivably, this is always going to be an opportunity within us if we're growing, if we're developing, we're moving to naturally any different stages in life. You have so many transitions going on right now. So it's even more powerful that there is this awareness through transition, which naturally invokes um, potential fears within us because there's so many unknowns in so many different ways. And what I want to also acknowledge for our work today, I keep saying tonight because I'm usually on a Wednesday and we're not, we're in the morning, is there's so many ways we can look at boundaries. And one, and what I heard was that, often is the case that boundaries were set to protect ourselves at a certain time. And they might have been born out of alignment then, or they might have been born out of fear. And now there's a recognition that this boundary, regardless of how it was born, however we created it, is no longer needed. My body no longer needs to harden in this way in the face of criticism. Um, and that's ultra complex, and I don't want to take us too far into this, but what came to mind when you were talking is so often these inner criticisms, and this may relate, this may not, but just to share like one angle we could look at it, inner criticisms are actually motivations, could have been born out of motivations for ourselves to move higher, to move higher, to move higher, and whatever we're working to achieve. I think about it as like a football coach type mentality for us like 80s 90s children. That's like, that was the coaching strategy then. You break somebody down and then they go succeed and it's like, look what I did. It's like, well, and also look at the harm that did, maybe potentially. But when we talk about softening, there's also an opportunity to soften in the face of why the hardening came in. So what I mean by that is, as you notice the hardening, it's also like, thank you for protecting me all these years. And I love that as a first place because it did. It was protection when you needed it. And now that we know better, we work different. Or we not necessarily know better. I was thinking about the Maya Angelou quote. She said, now that we know better, I do better. And I love that idea because, right? And in a way, it's like now we know differently. So we're going to move in a different way.
Mm. Thank
How
you,
did that
Hattie.
feel? Any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, it resonates.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It makes sense, and it feels good to also think about this hardening as a something to be grateful for, because it did serve
Yes.
me well
That's right.
for a long time.
Yeah.
but it doesn't anymore. It just doesn't feel right. And um, it's it's important to transition.
Yeah.
And I think that this moment, it's an opportunity for me to really focus on it and kind of
Yeah.
shine a light on the situations when it comes up, and try to have that moment, like sit with my feelings and not react. That's my work.
Yeah.
And have that opportunity to make a decision,
Yeah.
to act differently, to respond differently.
Yeah. That's it. I know. And it's a lot. And it's
But I think journaling also helps too,
good.
because yeah. And and notes, like any kind of notes and anything you guys can share with us
Yeah.
from these
Yeah.
sessions is also super
Good.
helpful.
It's on my list to this is my
Thank
to-do
you so
list.
much.
We'll get it. We'll
Thank
get
you.
there. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
I recognize so much what Victoria says.
Yeah.
And since we've been talking about this for the last few weeks, my husband is such a trigger for me as well.
Yeah.
And he came home last night from, went to California for work. And it's nothing like it used to be when my body tenses up so much if you walked into a room. But it still sort of happens. And I was thinking whether it came for me from a point of safety. Maybe that used to be the case. It isn't for me now anymore. It's just, I think it's just having control. I'm used to having control, but also he is used to me doing everything and be the control person.
Yeah.
So we're going to the Netherlands next week, but we've got a lot to arrange and we have lots of gifts to buy. It's my sister-in-law's wedding, his sister. So
Oh,
there's like lots of things to arrange. So I made a list that he can see as well. So he knows what's going on.
yeah.
I know that's already like a huge step for me of like, you're in it, you know what we need to do,
Yeah.
help me, gather these gifts. And that's going much, much better. But then I said like, look, I want to text the dog handler. She's going to take care of our dog for a week and a half. And we've said this months ago, but I haven't been in touch with her. And it's like, I want to just make sure of like, hey, is everything okay? You're going to pick her up on next Wednesday. And he's like, but he's thinking of going back a day later and I'm still going to be away. So I was like, I need to know because I need to let the dog walker know that when she's coming to pick up the dog. And he was like, yeah, I'll let you know after California how I feel when I come back. It's like, okay, well, last night he was back. I was like, well, can I text the dog walker now? Because I really want to make sure she comes. She needs to pick up the dog next Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's been months since we've been in touch, or weeks. I kind of just want to check in, but I need to know if we need to ask for an extra day. And he's like, yeah, is it okay if I let you know tomorrow? And I was like, great, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. And I decided to not do anything with it. I decided to not already text her. If anything goes wrong for whatever reason, then I know that's fate. That needs to come then. Then he needs to understand that that's because he wasn't on time or whatever. But it's so interesting that he can have this calmness, and he always says, well, you're the one that arranges everything. It's like, yeah, that's true, but it isn't necessarily a nice feeling. It's and as Victoria just said, like, I would love for it to flow, my energy, my authenticity to flow, but whenever he comes in, it's not a flow, it's like spikes.
Yeah.
And I noticed my body last night when I was going to bed. I just noticed it was more tense, and I mean, I loved it for him being home.
Yeah.
But I just noticed my body immediately goes in this sort of tense state of, oh, now I've got to arrange even more stuff. I need to think for him. And he's probably going to wake up and watch Formula One. And we're going to walk the dog. And I'm probably going to be every 10 minutes. Is he finally going to say if he's okay and he wants to add another day on a trip or whatever? And I just don't, I'm noticing it much more. I'm noticing I'm softening. I'm telling him as to the reasons why. If he says something, it triggers me, or like, hey, I want to give her a call to see if everything is okay for picking up the dog next week because of these reasons. Like, this is just, I think, also a woman's brain of like thinking 5 steps ahead of like, well, you need to arrange this by this date for this to happen.
Yeah.
And I know I'm changing already in that and being much softened, but for me, I think it's more related to control.
Yeah.
But that authenticity and softening, I just wish it was there more, and I would be less triggered and more throughout the day just be the same person and being able to say yes or no authentically. So Yeah, I find that really challenging as well.
Yeah. And similar to what I said to Victoria, I think this connection between noticing, what I heard was when you went to bed last night, you noticed the tightening in your body. And I think that is the most important part, to be able to notice how our body is responding to things that are going on in the outside world. And I share this because, even as a clinician, even in the clinical world, so often the realm of somatics is still relatively new, and so few people actually bring it in. And I'm just like, how do we not bring in somatics? Because our body is this entire world of information that is constantly giving us clues. And so this, what I heard is that it's really difficult to bring that authenticity and to continue to soften when your body is like gripping, gripping, gripping.
Mhm.
But I want to say this is not going to be comfortable, but like what I want to say is that just being with that awareness, especially when it's more new, the answer, there's a potential, and this is the idea of the inner healer, that it will naturally come up from just staying with it, staying with the tightness as you're noticing throughout the day, because it's trying to tell you something. Our body is always giving us these clues, whether it's a tightening, whether it's little flutters of anxiety that we term anxiety. We could also term it energy. That's a whole nother discussion. Whether it's the felt sense of X, Y, and Z, right? Whatever we want to label these things. And there's an opportunity to not go right away into fix it or solution oriented mode, but actually just sit with it. Sometimes it just goes away. Sometimes it becomes louder. And then in those moments, we bring in other tools to kind of quiet it if we need. And sometimes it moves somewhere else. And this idea of called localizing the emotion, but this awareness of the body as you just notice it, I'd be very interested as we continue to work with this idea of the tightening. And especially as your husband continues to like unfold, whether he makes a decision or he doesn't make a decision, it'll be really interesting to see how your body's responding. And then after it's done, we take a step back and we could probably look and find so much information from that journey. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
This awareness, I think awareness is one of the most powerful things that we can bring to this work. And then we layer in all these different things. But I loved how this resonance between Anna and Victoria, both of you have this tightness, how this is so informative. Often is the case. I mean, I can say the same thing of partners. Partners are mirrors for us. And most often the time, yes, there's something external that is bringing stuff up, but most often it's things within ourselves that are being highlighted, not of the experience that we're having in the moment, whatever's bringing it up. But yes, it could be partially that, but also most often it's related to something else. Um, and so this tightening is powerful above and beyond the experience itself. Does that make sense too? I'm trying to stay up here and it's harder.
No, it makes a lot of sense for me. It's that
Yeah.
mirror. I think the people
Yes.
closest to you hold those mirrors. And yeah, I think he definitely is holding a mirror that I've just been feeling anxious about this. And I should have
Yes.
probably myself reached out to her 2 weeks ago and just told her, like, there might be an extra day. I just want
Yes.
to reconfirm it. And it would have been handled.
Yes.
But I sort of let sort of his decision be ruling, whilst I knew that was going to give me very uncomfortable feelings. It was going to take up until it will take the last minute. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're right.
It resonates very strongly with me too. Yeah. So I look forward, continuing to, when we notice a tightening, continuing to invite in what would softness feel like in this moment? What would allow us to feel safe in the moment? Even posing questions to the body is a way, it's called a bottom-up approach to allow the body to speak to us. Because within this work, within meditation, our practice, we continue to cultivate the stillness within our mind, within our body, within our spirit, to be able to hear those answers.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think,
I
yes.
resonate so much with both of you. I don't
Yeah.
know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
So I thought I had way more time on that train and that one with a bunch of colleagues, so that's weird. But I am walking away, and what I want to say is I feel like there was a moment this week that was a situation I was in. It was a really related situation, and I was able to speak my truth, but at the same time, I found myself in this awkward place where it wasn't like that tense hardening. It was like almost a feeling of I'm gonna cry in frustration in a weird way. So I
Yeah.
retreated back and went to my room to kind of like really analyze where this was coming from. And for me, it was the dismissal of it was like asking my opinion, but then dismissing completely what that felt like what I actually was saying. And I feel like that really showed me a lot about myself in that like moment. Um, and I think that retreating to be alone and figure out what it was is that I really have some kind of like I don't know if it's a need to control, but it's a need to like be heard or seen or something.
Yeah.
And as I moved through that, I just sat quietly in my room and I softened into it rather than normally I think I would harden up and get
Yes.
angry.
Yes.
And or just put up a wall. Because my initial reaction was like, I'm offended now. Now I'm like, not ever speaking in this direction again. I'm turning away from you.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes any sense right now because I'm
Yeah.
awkwardly hiding. But but I was able to move through it and see the situation for what it was, and then kind of soften into it, speak about it with this person later on, and then see why I reacted that way. I mean, it was intense and it was in my chest, and it was like I'm not in a work situation. It's a different dynamic. So it's like a very friendly family work situation. So I really found it interesting how intensely I felt, but I think it rooted from like this dismissal of the value of me and what I was saying, and then also just like they're like, well, you can do what you want, and I felt very abandoned in that moment, which I think that hit something within me.
Yeah.
And it was like I was surprised in the reaction that I had, and I went to my room. And I was like, "Why are you upset about this?" Um, but I think I took a moment and really thought that and that does happen at home, but usually at home in the airface. Um, but yeah, that's where I'm at. So I relate to both of those. And I just wanted to tune in today the best I could. I didn't know I'd be in the train station right now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's where I am.
I love it. You're a bright light in that train station doing all this work, energetically affecting everybody around you. You're meant to be there.
Ah,
Yes. Um, some parts you were broken up, Cass, but I wanna something that resonates or that jumped out to me really strongly is how radical a shift it is. Instead of hardening around when we harden, we softened around when we harden.
mm,
That is a
yeah.
radical shift.
Yes.
And go ahead. Yeah. And in that moment, when we can soften instead of harden and then harden, that is an opportunity to move deeper within ourselves. And then, as Cass shared, and again, it was a little broken up, but what it sounded like is that you were able to kind of say, okay, why is this impacting me so much? Kind of draw lines to why it may be, and then go back and have a conversation to set a boundary in a different way. And this is what I mean by that. And I'm going to go deeper into it. But instead of saying, they abandoned me because they said, do whatever I want, all my stuff is coming up. And so I'm setting a boundary with this person. That is hardening boundary, almost a boundary out of fear, we could say. And instead, you're able to soften and say, all right, I'm going to go have a conversation. And do you see how that boundary setting, in a way, I don't know if we want to call that boundary setting or lack of boundary setting, we realized we didn't need it, is so different because we were able to soften. So boundaries in a way can become walls, can become walls, can become walls, can become walls. And this idea of softening allows us to say we don't need these. Or I need them here, but I don't need it here anymore. And when I can take this one down, I can connect. I can connect more deeply with someone else, and therefore I can connect more deeply with myself. Yeah. Amazing. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Any thoughts with what we kind of covered today? It's a lot. I want to also just share this. It's like this is deep work. You know, in a world where it can kind of sometimes feel isolating to do this type of stuff. Hence the reason that we have this space, this container where we're all doing the same stuff. But it's to ask ourselves to soften in the place of where we've consciously hardened to protect ourselves in the past. That's work. That takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of vulnerability. And hopefully over our time together, we continue to realize well, I won't go into it, but we continue to realize that this work also leads to a greater connection within ourselves. It's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable. And then the lightness comes because we're more connected with ourselves. Yeah. All right.
I wanted to say, Ali, that like softening, like the feeling of softness feels so much more nurturing
Yeah.
and sweet. It's just like, why would I harden when it never
Yes.
feels good?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like that happens out of a reaction, where
Yeah.
softening is a more intentional, like surrendering
Yeah.
almost,
Yes.
and surrendering to almost like surrendering to my true nature that
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
protecting from something. And like when I stop protecting, it's hard not to protect, right? Like even the words I'm choosing, like hard not to protect, because I'm
Yeah.
always trying to protect. I'm like a lioness, like I have this like lioness, huge part of my personality. Like the people in my life, my friends, my family, I'm like super solid. Like nobody hurts my friends, nobody hurt, it's like
Yeah.
I'm very, very protective. And maybe because of my childhood and how I grew up in like really tough circumstances. But that's like I need to let go of that.
Yeah.
Like I am gonna be 63 in July. And it's time to let go
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
that. I mean, there's time and place for that kind of thinking, but it has to be more pragmatic and more intentional rather than
Yeah.
just reactive
Yeah.
protection,
That's
and yeah. So when you talk about fluidity and softness, and when I listen to your meditation, Ali, that you
yeah.
recorded, it is
Yeah.
so amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Oh
doing
yeah.
that.
I'm glad it's
I,
supportive.
j-
Yeah.
it's so fully supportive. It's like it transports me, and
Yeah.
it creates
Yeah.
immediately, because I yield to it and I surrender to it
Yeah.
fully, and it like really allows me to be authentic self,
Yes.
because I'm just there and I'm just allowing to feel, to think without all these protective barriers. I'm thinking of them like more as like barriers
Yeah.
rather than conduits or bridges, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like softness is a bridge
Yeah.
and the hardness is a barrier in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. We can even say this softening is like a radical act of femininity. If you think about, I
Yeah.
don't want to get too dualistic, but we do live in a patriarchal society. And so a lot of what we've been conditioned to relate to the world is from a masculine architecture. And so what we're talking about is more of a feminine architecture. And I want to be clear, this is across genders. Everybody has masculinity and femininity within them. And so this softening for women, for men, for non-gender, whatever it is important for all of us. And so when we can notice places when we harden, and then, I also want to bring in, but this is above the scope of what we're talking about. I often see one of the patriarchal things that we think is 0 to 100, or maybe this is a Western cultural thing, 0 to 100. So I'm now going to be all softness. The goal is to bring both in. Where do I need to soften and where do I need to harden? Because I also see within this space when there's too much softening, and then we need to harden a little bit in a soft way, if that makes sense. And so the goal is to find this balance within us, and no one can tell us what that is except us, what that balance is in each and every moment. Yeah. It's really powerful if you think about, and I'm glad, thank you so much for bringing that in, Victoria, because it really does highlight the power of this shift to soften. And it's so nice to have this space because this is work for every single person here. We're doing our work too. We're not necessarily sharing as much, but we're in it too, and having these containers will continue to support one another to find this balance and what it looks like, and hearing other stories. That is connection, and that is a really powerful opportunity for ourselves. Yeah. Good. Thank you. All right. Okay. So, all right. So, okay. Diving a little bit deeper into our teaching today. On Wednesday, we explored ways in which we may disconnect from ourselves to maintain connection with other people. And so we're going to continue to explore that from a softer and more relational place, as I said earlier. Many people think authenticity and connection are opposites, and that if they fully express themselves honestly, they will lose love, connection, approval, or belonging. And this starts really early in our life. And can start in many different seemingly small ways. And so over time, we learn to soften or hide parts of ourselves in order to feel safe in relationships. Sometimes we hold back our truth to feel safe in the relationship. Sometimes we over accommodate. Sometimes we disconnect from our own internal desires. Sometimes we stay quiet. And sometimes we become someone we think we need to be. And often, as I mentioned just slightly earlier, that these patterns begin very early and not become something's wrong with us, because what we're talking about is the most essential part of being human. Connection is deeply important part of this experience. And it's deeply important to our nervous system, our sense of safety in the world. But eventually, when we disconnect from ourselves too often, relationships can begin to feel performative. They can begin to feel very draining, resentful. We become emotionally distant to protect ourselves. We disconnect from our aliveness. And so the body usually feels this, and this is why I highlight the importance of somatics earlier, and just this awareness of what's happening in our body, how important this is to have this awareness. Our body starts to feel this long before our mind does. We might notice a tightening, an emotional shutdown, exhaustion after certain interactions, a felt sense of what anxiety feels like within our body, a numbness, an overthinking, or a pulling away or disconnection from ourself internally, kind of like a dissociation or a felt sense of that. And we might also notice a flip side when moments where connection feels warm, open, energizing, where we feel emotionally alive within and after the relationship. Because sacral energy is really relational, it's deeply relational. It's the part of us that experiences attraction, longing, warmth, movement, emotional openness, that creative energy, and all of this kind of coming into the feeling of being drawn toward life, towards that kind of what we talked about earlier, that awe of like seemingly the smallest things, the most mundane things, the awe in all parts of life. It's the part of us that feels moved by connection and beauty and touch and creativity and intimacy, life itself. And so the authentic connection usually requires a vulnerability, that ability to, I'm going to use the word that Victoria said, to remove these barriers, to open. And that's hard. It takes a lot of courage. But the willingness to stay connected to ourselves, or let me take a step back, the authentic connection usually requires vulnerability, and not dramatic vulnerability, not oversharing, but the willingness to stay connected to ourselves is the theme since week 1, while allowing ourselves to be seen. This is hard. How to open ourselves vulnerably to allow ourselves to be seen. So not only emotional vulnerability, but the willing to allow ourselves to be moved, to feel, to want, to enjoy, to stay open enough to experience connection fully. And this is not a snap, flip of a switch. This is a North Star that we continuously work towards. So this work is not about, to that point, becoming rigid or perfectly self-protected. It's about learning how to remain emotionally open without abandoning ourselves in the process. So sometimes this work is very subtle. This is my last little point, and then we'll start to bring it home. A pause before saying yes, an acknowledged exhaustion, especially in the face of a connection. Allowing ourselves to want something, maybe that we haven't allowed ourselves to want before. Speaking more truthfully, especially within connection, and letting ourselves receive care instead of always giving it. And I heard this from you today. And very often the body recognizes this honesty before our mind can fully explain it. And so that's why, through our meditation work, creating the space to notice what's going on in the body is so profound, because our body is sending us messages before the mind may able to wrap its awareness around it, to understand what's going on. So noticing when connection feels alive in the body, breathing may become easier, energy may move more freely, you may notice a warmth, the softness, a curiosity, a presence, a sense of wanting to lean in, like a desire to lean in, to explore more instead of pulling away. And again, the goal is not perfection. It's to trust ourselves to remain present, open, and honest at the same time. It's hard work. Seems seemingly so easy to talk about, but this is, again, the North Star. And authentic intimacy becomes much more possible when we stop shape shifting in order to maintain connection. And I'm going to put in the chat when we hop off today, just some kind of like journal prompts, some awareness prompts to notice this. It's not a 0 to 180 or a full shift. It's noticing here, noticing there, and bringing, ultimately, from a meta-theoretical perspective, a softness to this entire process. Of not healing, because there's nothing to heal, a process of peeling back the layers that prevented us from seeing this authenticity that is always there, this wholeness that is always there. That's why many sadhanas ago, as it was called, movement towards wholeness or radical wholeness, because that radical wholeness is this idea that there's nothing to heal. We're all whole, just from taking down these barriers that we put up for a really important reason at one point in time. All right. So with that, let's move into, we'll have to end pseudo on time, which gives us 5 minutes. But we'll bring in our, bye, I guess, our mantra. It's my favorite part. We tapped into the wave breath before. And then we'll just take a moment to one more time anchor our awareness in our sacral region. So let us find, again, this receptive space. Maybe that means eyes softening to a close. Perfect. Good. All right. We all have to hop off on 9. I just saw your note, Victoria. And just for a few moments, we'll listen and maybe enchant internally, externally, whatever feels most aligned to this moment. Our mantra. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha.
Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi
In this
Namaha.
last moment,
Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri
allowing your awareness to slide down to your sacral region, center of your pelvic bowl, and just hold it there for a few more moments. Noticing sensation, movement. Take a deep breath down into that region. And the exhale, soften. Whatever that looks like for you. One more like that. Inhale. And exhale, let it go. If you have more time to sit with the practice, I invite you to do so. Otherwise, a few times we could just slide our palms back and forth. Place them above our eyes. Slide the palms down to the heart center. Take a round of breath into the palms. Then slide the palms down to the lower belly, that sacral region, and take one final breath into the palms, into that lower belly region. Namaste, my friends. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank
you,
you.
Ali.
Have a great week.
Thank you.